So, well, let's shake hands and get acquainted with Inter-language, which is one of Brown's, teaching principles, and specifically one of the linguistic teaching principles. We will mainly learn two things about this principle. We will learn what this principle generally means and what this principle specifically means to us as foreign language teachers or second language teachers. Before that, we all know that Brown divided the principles into three groups: cognitive, affective, and linguistic principles. Ours is the second, linguistic principle, coming after the native language effect and before or preceding the communicative competence principle. Very young children, like this one here, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, do not speak languages as fluently as adults. I've never heard a child who's 3 years old, for example, go to bed with very few words in his mind or little language in his brain, and then he woke up next day as an eloquent, great speech maker. These things never happen because simply children do not acquire language overnight. They develop their native languages in gradual, systematic stages. Gradually. Likewise, adults or second language learners, foreign language learners or second language learners will develop also their acquisition of the second language in systematic or quasi-systematic stages in their way towards full competence of the target language. And while they are learning, of course, they have the sort of which I call false confidence. Second language learners might come up with utterances which are partially erroneous for native speakers, or according to the rules of the standard rules of this particular language. But in their own point of view, such sentences or such utterances are flawless, impeccable, which is actually a delicate challenge for language teachers, and particularly for a foreign language teacher, who seems to be the only reliable authority for the learners. Why? Because outside we have no other chance for communication. All ears, all eyes are on this particular teacher. This particular teacher is supposed to boost the learners' acquisitional process or developmental acquisition process, and at the same time, he's supposed to maintain and secure a high level of accuracy, which seems to be a dilemma, which seems to be something like a Hobson's choice situation. However, it's not, if we bear in mind the importance of feedback. Feedback that must highly esteem cognitive as well as affective dimensions. A good classroom feedback must be highly and positively effective. Must be positively effective. It should enhance encouragement and motivation, and at the same time, it has to be appropriately informative. Accuracy and unambiguousness at the same time. Let's have a look at how Brown gives us the definition for this principle. He simply said that second language learners go through a quasi-systematic or systematic developmental process on their way to full competence of the target language. And unfortunately, some second language learners, on their way to this full competence, they may stumble and they may make mistakes, and then teachers are baffled. Are they supposed to correct these mistakes in order to guarantee accuracy, or should they avoid correction in order not to come up with bad, effective consequences? Something like frustration. Again, this takes us to the second part of Brown's principle, which is feedback. Feedback is very important. Feedback, I believe, in 2 words, it should encourage and inform. This is the first thing that we've learned, the nature of this principle. The second thing is how this principle, is useful, to us as foreign language, teachers. I guess there are 6 considerations, that we should bear in mind here, for which I created this sort of acronym. We can call it E-SMART or SMART-E. The first one is self-correction. Mistakes are not bad. Ample, feedback, respect, tolerance, and empathy. Self-correction, the first one. If learners practice some self-correction, they are not going to be frustrated because they do it to their own, okay? And we should not actually believe that mistakes are always bad. Mistakes can be indicators that the learning process is ongoing. The third one, we have to provide our learners with ample feedback, including verbal and non-verbal feedback. Whether verbal and non-verbal, it must have encouragement. We should respect the students as well. We should not make them feel that they're stupid when they make, well, interlanguage errors. We have to have tolerance with some language forms. We should not be aggressive, like this picture here. And we should tolerate some language forms, as I said. And the last thing is empathy, which is kindness. Yes, we're supposed to correct mistakes, but whenever we do, we have to do it with kindness, empathy, in order not to have in-depth consequences, and to give them chances to speak and communicate. This is all. Thank you. I'm supposed to do this like next one.
Okay, that was 540, all right? Okay, which is